Hey guys, welcome to Entertainment Talk Nation. I'm your host Rob. This video we're going to do a subscriber request and we're going to discuss what I think the Muto monsters in Godzilla 2014 will look like. Okay guys, welcome back. So the Muto, obviously, we've all discussed this before. I've made a number of videos on them, and I think the biggest question at this point is what these creatures are going to look like. It's really the one element of Godzilla 2014 that we really don't know about. There has been no leaked pictures. There have been no discussion really or anything significantly leaked about them other than maybe a brief toy description from all these online toy stores, as well as the fake script leak that came out recently discussing Taliban and all that crap, which turned out to be fake, of course. And then finally, the people who were fortunate enough to see one clip of the Muto at 2013 Comic-Con. But here's what I think. I think, number one, considering how far we've gone now without even getting a hint of an iota of what these creatures are or what they look like, I'm starting to think that what people saw at Comic-Con, while it's obviously part of the movie, I don't think that's the final look of what this creature is going to look like on screen. I have a feeling that was a concept footage of the Muto. We all know they're still doing post-production on the movie, so they can do a lot of changes to these monsters. Maybe not necessarily the design, like the overall, what they look like, but in terms of color scheme, smaller details, whether they have hair, whether they don't, whether they have spikes, whether they don't, things like that, they can change. So what do I think they'll look like? Well, first of all, we know that there are at least two monsters. Whether it is just one and two, or what a lot of us think the popular consensus is that there's one type that all look the same and they're a collective, and then there's like a queen. That's another possibility. You know, they were described as an arachnid or spider or something similar to Kumanga from the original Godzilla movies. The other was, I've heard several descriptions that it looks similar to the Cloverfield monster in terms of the eyes and the face with an arachnid body. It could be some sort of mutation. It could be a spider mutated with another insect, and you get like a let's say, for example, like a praying mantis face with a spider body. I mean, they can go in so many directions. It's even tough to guess because I really have nothing to guess on. I've seen the nice little pictures that people have drawn. It's really tough to tell. We know that we have another one that's supposed to be a flying Muto and is a great size larger than the first one that's described. You know, I think the flying Muto probably going to be some sort of butterfly, to be honest. Honestly, it's going to be some sort of butterfly, I think. And the reason I think that is because if you remember when you go to the MutoResearch.net, monarch comes up a lot, which means that probably the M in Muto means monarch. There is a monarch moth. I did a video a couple of weeks back, actually a little over a month ago, and in that video I think it was a prediction, and I went over a list of insects, certain types of insects that I think could be related. And I even went as far as to say that I felt the monster in the original 2012 trailer, the one that's, you know, cringed up and dead on the floor, I even went on to say that I believe that was more of a caterpillar than a centipede. You know, some people obviously went nuts when I said that, but if you go back and look at that video, I feel I made a strong case because I went over a list of 10 caterpillar / butterfly moths that are, number one, toxic. Number two, are beautiful. They're actually very gorgeous animals, albeit dangerous. And they have names or descriptions that are very similar to what we do know so far. So the monarch butterfly, and I'll look for a picture and then try to put it in the description so you guys can get an idea. Is that possible? Sure. Will it look like a real monarch butterfly? Probably not. Probably not. I think there is a possibility we're going to get an original either creation or adaptation of a Toho monster. I'm not saying, and again, this has been an argument ongoing, and every time I bring this up, somebody always seems to say in the description or on the comments below, rather, that, oh, it's not, they don't have this, they don't have that with Toho. I get that. And I want to say this for the 1 millionth time, and I hope people watch the whole video before they make an asinine comment like that, because I've said this time and time again. I'm not saying it's going to be a Toho monster. I'm not saying it's going to be Mothra or Ghidorah. What I'm saying is they might take inspiration from one of those monsters and create something similar, or just try to make homage towards a Toho monster. And the other thing is this. Let's face it. Let's be honest here. Was any of us in the boardroom when these negotiations took place between Toho and Legendary? Was there somebody there who had a special inside scoop? Because we know how that goes down. Just because Legendary says they're not going to have a Toho monster, or that Legendary says that there wasn't a deal to have another monster within buying the rights to Godzilla, what gives you any idea that's the truth? Let's put it this way, if they wanted to put Mothra or Ghidorah or anybody in this movie, I think they're well aware of what kind of hype that could stir up. So why not keep it a secret? And why would they deliberately tell people that they do have rights to other monsters other than Godzilla, when they know that that could be a perfect way to get people fired up by just keeping it a secret? And quite frankly, let's face it, who's been kept more of a secret in this movie than anything else? It's been the Muto, not Godzilla. Godzilla's been seen. We more or less have seen him. We've taken pictures, we've highlighted the trailer, all this and all that. So to automatically just believe Legendary, I don't look, here's the deal. I don't believe anyone, okay? The first thing I think comes out of people's mouth is shit. Okay, basically, I think that there's verbal diarrhea going on everywhere. This is the running of the mouth. Okay, so if I don't believe, with that said, just because they said that doesn't mean I exactly believe them. To me, it makes perfect sense that if they had gotten a couple of other monsters into the fold, that's not something they're going to release right away. But that, again, that doesn't necessarily mean that I'm saying there's going to be a Toho monster in this movie. We don't know. We don't know what these monsters look like. But one thing we do know is this. I think the general consensus, is that they are insects. We know that one of them has 8 legs, and that the one that has 8 legs is really not that big. So, if that monster is not as big as people described, Godzilla should be able to walk all over it. So I don't think it's just going to be one monster, unless they want it to be a quick fight that leads up to the big fight, because I don't know how long the movie's going to be. I don't know how many encounters with these Mutos he's going to have. And for all we know, there could be more than 2 creatures altogether. We just don't know enough. So what do I think they will look like? I think you're going to, I really firmly believe you're going to have at least one of these 2 monsters look very similar or have certain features about it they're going to take from the Godzilla from Toho Studio Monsters, that Godzilla universe, because you see whispers in the wind and a lot of hints are showing that while it's not a direct remake of the original movie, it is a reboot, and they seem to be taking certain elements from Toho creation. Dr. Serizawa, who I believe is not really going to have anything to do with the original Serizawa, going back to 1954. Obviously, the whole nuclear radiation thing. So we're seeing elements of content that is from Toho. So why should any of the monster designs be any different? So in terms of the flying Muto, I think that's the monster that you're going to see a lot of similarities to some Toho monsters. Yes, maybe Mothra. Mothra is a very, very popular monster. She has her own trilogy. A lot of people think maybe there's an Anguirus in there, or maybe we'll see hints. I wouldn't surprise me if the other Muto is more along the lines of a Kumanga. And while that's not the most popular kaiju in the world, think about how many people are afraid of spiders. So you can imagine showing a monster on screen that is very arachnid-like will scare the shit out of people. And let's face it, that's what they're going for. So, if you kind of read between the lines, don't completely think that for 1 minute Legendary doesn't have rights to other creatures. I'm not saying they do. I wasn't in the boardroom, like I said before. To be fair, it could go either way. But anyone who comes out and says, oh, but Legendary said, stop right there, I'm just going to remove your comment. Because if you want to blatantly just believe anything you hear or anything you read, especially from big corporations, please. it would make perfect sense for them not to share that information for the basic reason of the element of surprise, which is what they're going for. Let's face it. They're going for the element of surprise. And the more they hide the Muto, the more and more I'm starting to think that there is something there we're going to see that we're going to recognize. I don't think it's going to be a Toho monster in my heart of hearts. I think we're going to see something new, something fresh with certain elements and certain references to something we're familiar with. Because I think that's what they want with this movie. They want to make the hardcore G fans have a sense of familiarity with the creatures they see on screen, but still keep it fresh enough for the new audience and the new viewers they hope to gain. So what I think is, overall, I think you'll get the smaller Muto arachnid. I don't think it's going to look like the trailer from 2013. I think it's going to look a lot different. I would expect to see highlights gearing towards Kumanga, not because Kumanga is a popular kaiju, but because he is a spider, and most people are afraid of spiders, and it's a very scary creature, and that's what they're going for. And in terms of the flying Muto, I think you're going to see something along the lines of their own design, but if they do take any elements from the Toho content, I think you're going to see something along the lines of a pretty nasty mix of Mothra and Batra, because I don't think the monster is going to look pretty. But one thing I will say is definitely look up the monarch butterfly when you consider the name that comes up on MutoResearch.net, and you can automatically assume that the first M in Muto means monarch. And you look at the monarch butterfly and you read its description. It's actually comes from a toxic caterpillar. I would have to ask you guys to just go rewatch the first part of that. It's a long video, so I don't expect you to watch the whole thing. I know it's been out for a while, and a lot of you might have seen it already. But reference my old video, the prediction video, where in the very beginning I talk about butterflies and the caterpillars and all that. And there's a caterpillar I did point out there that looks very much like what's assumed to be a Muto monster in the original leak trailer from 2012. So, but that's it. I mean, that's about as best as I can do with whatever content I have that's been out there. But I got to tell you, I really think these Muto monsters are going to be the star of this movie. I'm not taking anything away from Godzilla, but let's face it, we've seen Godzilla before. We know what to expect now. We have a good idea of what he looks like. I think it's the Muto monster that's going to really be the monster that puts us at awe. And it's going to be a hit or miss. It's either going to be something very, very popular that people like, or people are going to think it sucks and wasn't worth the wait. So let's see what happens. Talk to you guys later. See you next video.